Wow, who would have thought that the successful path to making a Universal Monsters movie is making a fucking horror movie? So The Invisible Man tells the story of a woman trying to escape the clutches of her abusive and possessive boyfriend, but after his apparent suicide, she begins to be tormented by someone that she can't see and can't explain. Here we are, guys, the newest iteration of the classic Universal Monsters film, this time going to a much lower budget with Blumhouse, going into the hands of Leigh Whannell, who has a lot of horror roots, and finally doing the damn thing right. Look, I love the Brendan Fraser mummy movies just as much as anybody else. But it has been infuriating seeing big studios continuously, Universal I guess, continuously trying to do big budget, summer blockbuster versions of these Universal monsters. They're horror characters. Do fucking horror movies. And now, with this one, with I'm sure its financial success, and it's already critical and fan success, we're gonna see that ship righted. Finally. So yes, obviously I was a fan of this movie. I had a good time with it. What were the things that I specifically liked about it? Before I get into it, please like and share this video. If you enjoyed it, help get it around, help everybody else see it. If you enjoyed it so much that you want to check out some more, be sure to click out that subscribe button down below so that you can catch all of my content in the future and check out some of my backlog content, a ton of stuff that you will enjoy. And if you enjoyed it so much that you want to help contribute to this channel and help this channel grow, check the video description below for my Patreon link. That's the best and easiest way to support this channel while getting cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron, such as patron reviews, voting on videos that I do, doing Blu-ray digital copy code giveaways, which I do just about every other week. All that fun stuff is patron exclusive, so check that out down below. But beyond that, let's talk about The Invisible Man. So the first thing that I have to talk about as far as positives with The Invisible Man is Leigh Whannell himself, the writer and director of this film. This is a guy who kind of came onto the scene as the partner slash protege, if you will, of James Wan. If you're a horror fan, you know the name James Wan. Insidious, The Conjuring, Saw, all that good stuff. And Leigh Whannell has kind of quietly been coming up in Hollywood. He directed Insidious Chapter 3, which I actually thought was a big step up from Insidious Chapter 2. He did 2018's Upgrade, which ended up being my favorite film that year. Love that movie. Just rewatched it a couple nights ago. It's still badass. And The Invisible Man just continues to show that this guy is a director and a writer to keep your eyes on. He's got a very specific style that he kind of weaves in, mostly with the camera work that he chooses to use, but this guy knows how to craft a good story. This guy knows how to build tension, and this guy knows how to subvert a lot of the bad tropes of any genre that he is in, almost to the point where he like teases you as a viewer to where you think he's going in a very cliche direction, and just like an Upgrade, there's spots in this movie where he feels he's heading that way and he pulls the rug out from under you right when you're getting ready to slump in your chair and go, oh, he's doing this. Oh shit, no he's not. Leigh Whannell is awesome. This is a guy that 3 films in, he might be one of my favorite directors working today, to the point where anything that he's attached to, I'm immediately sold on. It was the way it was when he was attached to Invisible Man. I loved Upgrade. I was still coming down from the high from that. They said, hey, we're scrapping this Dark Universe bullshit, and Leigh Whannell is gonna do The Invisible Man. I was like, yes. And like I was talking about with his camera work, you know, there's things that he did in Upgrade that was very cool and unique. Like there was shots where he'd have a stationary camera that would kind of like rotate in a 360. Obviously the fight scenes had a very cool little dynamic with the camera work where it would kind of move and float with the person that was fighting. And it's not necessarily anything that dynamic in this movie. It's much more small scale, but he does subtle things with the camera here to where you'll have scenes where Elizabeth Moss will be talking to somebody and the camera's focused on her, and the camera will just kind of slowly unfocus her face and move to a corner of the room, or it'll like turn down an empty hallway and pause for a good 10 seconds and then come right back without showing anything. And when you have the story and the tension building with this invisible man, this, you know, presence that's around her that she can't see and never knows whether he's there or not, it kind of builds that same paranoia that's built in the character and the viewer with these camera tricks, to where you don't know if, when it pans to the corner, is that guy standing there? Is it just trying to suggest that he's standing there? Was he never there in the first place? Like, it's literally subtle but cool things that just brings emotions out of you as a viewer just with subtle camera work. And that's just great direction. That's something that you don't see a lot of filmmakers do. And for a guy who's on his third film, I can't wait to see what he does next. The movie is also really effective at building tension. Like even from the beginning of the film, before anything supernatural happens, it opens up with this sequence where she's basically trying to escape from this house, this captivity, this boyfriend who is possessive and abusive to her. And the way that scenes play out where she's slowly trying to creep out of bed and walk to the next room and the camera's just stationary on this guy who's asleep, and the way that they don't have any music, it's just footstep sounds and everything. From the first 5 minutes of the film, you're like on the edge of your seat and your hair standing up on your neck. And then whenever you get into the Invisible Man side of the story where this person is supposedly dead, but something is tormenting Elisabeth Moss's character, it's even more tense because, like I said, with the subtle camera work, but not only that, with just very effective old school thrills and old school scares that aren't cheap jump scares that we see in every fucking horror thriller nowadays, it really does make the hair stand on the back of your neck because there might be a creak in the floor, or there might be something that moves in the background, or you might hear a slight noise, or just the sound design will make it feel like the airflow in the room changes. Just small things to where everybody has been home and felt one of these things go wrong, and you're like, somebody else here? What the fuck is going on? But even in the more intense moments, when they are going for those huge scares, when they are going for, some jump scares, but effective jump scares and not cheap jump scares, they will make you jump out of your seat. I also kind of got helped a little bit because there was a woman sitting about 1 row behind me and 5 seats over that was really expressive every single time that there was a jump scare. Something would jump and she'd go, "Whoa!" And I think maybe I was jumping as much from her screaming down my fucking neck as I was at the movie. But the movie's effective. Then you gotta talk about Elisabeth Moss. Now, most of the movie is carried on her shoulders. There are side characters, obviously. She has her sister, she has her friend, and her friend's daughter that's kind of, housing her and trying to build her back up as a person, and they're very good characters as well, but this movie's about Elisabeth Moss. It's about her reacting to nothing there. It's about her emotion. It's about her character arc going from this very broken and, imprisoned person trying to break free of that, not only physically but emotionally, and just kind of trying to overcome this situation where she knows something fucked up is going on, but she can't convince anybody of it because you can't convince anybody that there's an invisible man walking around tormenting me. And she's great. She's great at showing when she's scared. She's great at showing when she's emotional. When it starts getting into like the second act and she starts feeling like she's going a little bit nutty herself, she portrays that really well. She's awesome. I've never seen a lot of her TV work. I know she's built a lot of her resume on TV, but I have my eye on her as an actress now, and I'm curious to go back and watch things like The Handmaid's Tale and some other shows that she's done because she's awesome.
Are you okay?
Now, as far as story writing, I actually think that this movie is a brilliant way to bring the classic story of the Invisible Man, that classic Universal monster story, as well as the H.G. Wells novella, into modern times. Some people might watch this trailer and just like, seems like every other weekend nowadays you get a movie and they're like, oh, this is about female empowerment. Not gonna watch it. This is a little bit like that. I mean, in a sense, you have a movie where it's about a female trying to break free of the shackles of this abusive guy, but it's a movie that takes that classic storyline of that invisible man and what you would do if you had this power and brings it into modern times and certainly modernizes the risks and the horror of that situation. And I think it was just really cool. It's unique. There's a lot of different versions of this this Invisible Man storyline. Hollow Man has always been one of my favorite ones from, 15 years ago or whatever with Kevin Bacon. That was an awesome one. This one is almost just as good for being just as different with that concept. And finally, I like the fact that the movie has some surprise in store for you. There are some directions you don't expect it to take. There are some shocks along the way as far as when things suddenly happen that you weren't ready for. There are a few twists and turns that hopefully a lot of you won't see coming. It's a movie that definitely puts you on a ride. And for a movie that I would have been one of the first people to watch the trailer and say, this movie looks awesome, but did you just show us the entire movie? Seriously? Luckily, it doesn't. It does kind of framework where the plot is going, but there is a ton that this movie has in store for you that has not been given away in the marketing, and as a horror and a thriller fan, that's So refreshing to not have the fucking marketing ruin a great movie. Now moving into my mixed aspects, I really only have one. This was almost in the negative section until the final 10-15 minutes of the movie. And to be honest, I need to rewatch the film to see if this does get pushed into the negative or if this is actually something that isn't a problem whatsoever, which is why I'm sticking it here in the middle. There's a couple of logic issues that I had in this film that may be explained away by something that happens in the final act. I need to rewatch the film to kind of put the pieces together, but there was some instances throughout the film where it felt like logic and your believability was being stretched a bit too far as how quickly the Invisible Man was able to catch up with Elizabeth Moss, how far he's able to travel so quickly, as far as knowing where she is at all times. Like, there's just some things that definitely build the tension of the story, but it happens so conveniently for the antagonist's agenda that it almost feels like the script is serving this character a bit too much and not necessarily being believable in spots. Like I said, it's nothing that takes away from the movie. There's not points in it where you're going, oh, bullshit, you just ruined it. But there's small spots for me when I was watching it where I was going, I have some questions. But other than that, guys, I thought this was a fantastic movie. I had very high expectations for it because of the names attached to it, and it met and exceeded some of those expectations. I think this is by far the best version of any of the Universal monster films that we have gotten in a couple of decades, at least it feels. And I feel like this is going to be a good lesson for Hollywood that when you have these classic characters, especially for horror-based characters, you don't have to dump $250 million into it. You don't have to make it this giant blockbuster production. You can give it to a very skilled director with a $7 million budget, which I believe is all this movie had, and he will craft a great, effective film that embraces all of the things that is great about these classic characters, and you can succeed that way. So I'm curious to see what we're going to get out of this. Is there going to be an Invisible Woman movie? Is there going to be eventual Frankenstein or Dracula or anything like that? I don't know, but if it's of the caliber of this, I'm on board. So if you're a fan of the classic Universal monsters or a fan of the Invisible Man and you want to see what a modern take of this character is in the hands of a great writer-director, Leigh Whannell, waste no time and check this thing out in theaters. And when it finally hits the shelves, go out and buy it. So what did you guys think of The Invisible Man? Did this meet your expectations? Are you a fan of the more horror thriller-based storytelling regarding these characters? Or do you actually like the more kind of popcorn blockbuster versions like the Brendan Fraser Mummy or Dracula Untold or I, Frankenstein or any of those others that I have forgotten completely? Let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are. Please like and share this video and be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out if you enjoyed this channel and want to check out some more. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.